The thing I love about planted freshwater aquariums is that they basically maintain themselves. And as you can see here from this 90-gallon tank, we desperately need a trimming, a replanting, a maintenance session on this tank. So it's been months since I cleaned the canister filter. I really need to fertilize it, but I'm actually out of fertilizer right now. And the amazing thing is with all these plants, there's very little, if any, nitrate, low phosphate, and basically the only nutrients that are left in this tank after all of these submersed plants and immersed plants that we have growing on top of it, the only thing that's left over is what I need to introduce into the tank in terms of fertilizer. So when I feed these fish, they produce the waste, the plants take up the waste. Up until recently, the Rotala rotundifolia hadn't quite covered the surface as much, so it wasn't quite as dark in here in this little spot. This is gonna be really easy to clean up, and we're probably gonna have a lot of plants left over that won't actually fit in here because they're way overgrown. And I'm not sure where we're gonna put those, but I'm sure we can find a spot. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get in here, remove some of this Java moss that's just kind of growing around where it shouldn't be.
Me?
We're gonna trim back the Rotala rotundifolia, replant some of that. We're gonna take all this Vallisneria that has come up to the front and started creeping along the glass. We're gonna take that either out completely or remove it from the front and put it back in the back where I had intended it to be. And we're also gonna see what we can find in here, because at one point there were some Amazon swords in the back. We've got this lovely Java fern here that's being hidden by all the Rotala. This is by far the most plants I've ever had in a freshwater aquarium, this one specifically. And what's crazy is this is not a planted substrate. This is just an inert quartz gravel that I have had in a tank for probably six years or so. I think this tank is about 3 years old, something like that. But the gravel was from the old tank, so it's pretty established gravel. But it was stirred up and stuff. So basically 3 years this gravel has been set up, and all the nutrients that the fish deposit and all of the plants decaying get settled in the gravel, and then the plants can start to take it up. But if you're just doing a planted tank, I would recommend starting with aqua soil, because if you're just starting with a gravel specifically, a coarser sand would be better. But if you're starting with gravel, it's gonna take a little while for all those nutrients to build up enough for the plants to utilize them, unless you go with epiphytes, something like Java fern, Anubias, plants that take their nutrients mainly from the water column instead of roots. Then you won't have to worry about a nutrient-rich substrate, which then you can use gravel, or inert gravel. But at this point, basically all the plants that are in here are fully set in. They're taking the nutrients from the substrate. Let's actually look under the tank right now. So you can see some of these roots. On this side, you can really see, I think this is the, I think these are some crypts up in the front. These crypts really started to grow out, and just look at all these roots. Honestly, probably expected more for how many plants are in here, but you know, the majority of the roots are probably along the middle to top end of the substrate, because that's probably where most of the nutrients are, is just in this sort of top inch of the substrate. And the plants will know where the nutrients are and send their roots to find it. Even from not having cleaned this tank for a few months, the glass is remarkably clean. Like, you know, there's a little algae in here, and we've got some snails, and we've got some autosynclus, and we've got, what else do we have? Oh, we have hillstream loaches. There's some models for us right now. We have a hillstream loach right here. We have an autosynclus right here. These are a few years old now, I think, these autos. I think there should be males and females in here of hillstream loaches, and I would be surprised if we don't have any babies at this point, but I'm sure it would be nearly impossible to see at this point. So we're gonna check in here, see if we have any babies of any kind. Potentially might have something in the canister filter. We'll have to check that out. You never know what you find. You at least find some snails down there. This pothos, one of them, is growing down the back of the tank, and it's growing under the tank with no leaves because there's no light under here. And here's the end of it. This guy's crazy. So let's get started cleaning up this 90-gallon planted tank. And let me know, guys, in the comments what you guys do for your maintenance on your planted tanks. How often do you change your canister filters? Because if you have a canister filter in your tank, hopefully you're not like me and let it go way too long before cleaning. That's unfortunate. This is why getting into your tanks and looking around is really important every so often. You see all this hair algae up here. It does look like it's pretty well contained in the middle. So we've got a bunch of hair algae? That looks like hair algae. Depending on how densely planted we leave this, if we removed it all, I kind of don't think it's going to really come back, because you have just this pocket of absolute no flow right there. There's no flow. The outlet from the canister filter's on this side. So by the time it gets to this dense spot, you have like the power of the sun right under this light, plus no flow. So there you go, hair algae. We've just got some dead pothos leaves back here. Just pluck these off. You don't want pothos leaves in your tank. Pothos leaves contain a toxin that can be upsetting to fish if they eat it. I'm not quite sure what happens if it just goes in the water, but the stems are okay. It's the leaves that contain this toxin. Kind of forget what it is. I might put it on the screen so you guys can learn something. And like this, if they were to, there's not really any fish munching on this, but they could munch on it. Might not be the best thing. Look at these plants. This might be my favorite freshwater plant. It's so easy to grow and it's so beautiful. And the difference in coloration between lighting levels, nutrient levels, this thing can go from basically green to orange, yellow, red. It's a really nice plant. Rotala rotundifolia, you have pink. I like this plant. There's actually, I think, maybe 2 different kinds in here. This one might be a red, Rotala rotundifolia red, and this one might just be a normal. I don't really remember. It's been too long. Oh man, there's a lot of roots in here too. Good place to start is probably a few weeks ago, a few months ago. If you don't let it get this long, it definitely won't be as hard to clean up. I've gone through and taken out almost all of the Vallisneria along the front. I've just got a little bit more here to take out, and I'm not actually sure if this is dwarf sage or jungle val. So I might want to just collect all this and make a nice little grouping back here. And I went ahead and took out all of the Rotala down to the bottom because there was just a giant ball of roots back there. And so I'm like, let me show you. This is how much we got out of there. Now, it's really hard to see all of the Rotala underneath all of the Vallisneria, but look at all that. That's a huge bunch. So we're gonna take a lot of this Rotala and remake that nice little bundle at the back. And we'll just sort of plant that around that area. And I think some new shoots from that root clump will come up as well, because there's still plant there basically. I just cut it way down. And I've got a few more plants to trim. I'm gonna trim this guy down just like I did on that side right there. And then there's some more clumps of Java moss around. I've got to pick up that. And then we'll take the canister filter out. We'll siphon some of the gunk that's sitting on top of the gravel. We'll clean all that up, and we'll do a little bit of a water change. get our bucket. Get out of the way, bro. All these tetras are trying to get sucked on. Go away. So I'm also doing this first before I do the canister filters so that all the stuff I accumulate in this bucket can have a chance to sit for a little while and we can inspect it to make sure there's no little fry in there. And so also I'm not really trying to remove any of the nutrients that are locked down inside of the substrate. I'm really just trying to remove the stuff from the top. And a gravel vacuum is going to disturb the substrate, which is where all the nutrients for the plants are. So this is doing a fantastic job. It's actually sucking a lot of the Java moss out of there too. Look at all that poo. So now we're gonna let these sit for a little while we clean the glass, because that could use a cleaning, and better do it now before all the stuff up here gets dry and gets hard to clean off. So while we do that, these buckets are gonna sit and we can check them in a minute with a flashlight and see if there's any baby fish in there. All the glass is clean now, looking much better. Still got some stuff on the outside, but we'll wipe that down once we're done. Let's just get on with this. The last thing I've got to do is clean out the canister filter. Not super exciting. Boring! But I'm basically just gonna put it in this bucket, rinse out all the sponge filters, and put it back. And then that's gonna remove some water when we have to refill it. So we're gonna use some RO water and remineralizer to top this back up. So that's 15 gallons right there, plus maybe 2 or 3 gallons in the canister filter. We'll get the water back in there and the tank will pretty much be done. Oh, we gotta add more plants. And then this tank will be finished. Woo! Woo! All right, let's get some Rotala back in the tank. Pretty much just lined all the stems up. Just gonna find a nice little pocket to shove this in. It's a good bunch. Let's get a little bit more. And by a little bit, I mean hopefully most of this. More. Might as well throw a few of these in here too. Let's put them on the side. I love the texture. Long, thin green and against that pink and orange Rotala looks really good. All right, just a little more water and I think this tank is basically done. Aside from a few of the roots that I need to take care of because they're just kind of still hanging in here, I'm probably gonna do something with these to get these out of the tank because I'm not sure I like these hanging down in here, but the tank looks pretty good. And for it really not having much aquascape, it's like almost, what is that style of tank? Wallstead? Something like that, where there's just plants. And very, like you can't really even see any of the wood or rocks. You can see like one rock, a little piece of the wood, but this tank is mainly just plants hanging out in here. And it looks pretty good, but the water is crystal clear right now. You can see all the bubbles in the plants right now. The fish are doing great, and they love all of the extra space they get back from this whole side of the tank, basically. I took the extra Vallisneria that I had pulled out of the tank and actually put it over here in the Ranchu tank. I'll have to add some nutrients to the substrate because there's really no substrate, it's just sand. So there's no nutrients in there. For the grass, which I I separated each one, put the shortest ones on the edges and the longer ones in the middle, so it sort of just gives this tapering effect. And yeah, I didn't know what else to do with all this stuff. I have a few pieces of dwarf sage that I think I'm just gonna put in a pot, as well as all this rotala we have left. I'm gonna put in some pots with some rock wool. I'm thinking we'll just stick in the koi pond. I stuck some rotala in here yesterday just to see what the goldfish would do, and they have not eaten it. So either we're really lucky and we have goldfish and koi that are not interested in eating my plants. Okay, right now they're gonna eat it. Dude, come on. I just said you weren't gonna eat it. They're not eating it. That's great. So we have goldfish that don't eat plants. Hopefully, that means we can put some more plants in here, because that would be great for water quality, for everything like that. Let's give them some food. God, that's probably too much. That's all right. We need to get them big and fat. Look at these little guys. They're so good. So yeah, look at all these happy fish, clean water, happy fish. And we've pretty much checked. We've checked the water. I see no babies. What you can do is, after all of this stuff is settled, shine a flashlight in here, and then just ever so slightly tap on the side. And if there's anything in here, it's usually startled and you'll cause it to swim around. And if there's any fry in here, you better see it. This one's definitely more oily. Fish goop in here, making the water a little hard to see through. See nothing? I'm really surprised there's no fry in here, guys. We've got hillstream loaches, we've got glow light tetras. I don't think the angelfish, I would have noticed if they had babies, but no, I think we have nothing in here. So that's good. We can water all of our plants with this water and not have to worry about there being any little fry in there. So I'm going to pot up all of these plants, all of these beautiful rotala and dwarf sage plants. And if you'd like, you can go to my eBay page where I have some of my plants listed. I'll show you my Java moss. If you want any Java moss, I have basically a 40-gallon tank just absolutely packed full of Java moss. This whole thing is basically, besides some rotala plants, this thing is basically just solid Java moss. Let's get you a nice close-up. No hair algae, from what I can see, no algae of any kind. So we've got basically just a giant solid mass of Java moss in here. If you guys want Java moss, if you want some rotala, I'll have those potted up. You can buy a nice thick bundle of rotala that I'll have in here. I'll take some photos, put them on my Instagram. You guys can check out my eBay and buy them if you want to help support the channel. They'll probably be, oh, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there might be 10 or so, 10 or 15 pots of rotala, 2 or 3 pots of dwarf sage. So if you guys are interested, check it out. That's my eBay page, and I will have other things on there, as well as maybe a website in the future where I'll try to sell some stuff. I'm thinking of doing some 3D printed aquarium parts with good high quality plastic. Plus I'll have occasional plants on there whenever I have too much, and I might actually sell some corals eventually once this tank starts to get full, which is the goal. And then you guys can support the channel, and we can continue to do really incredible things on this channel. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next video.